now. Okay, Attorney General, going on to Attorney General. On the Democratic side, Teresa Hensley and Jake Zimmerman, and then on the Republican side, Josh Hawley and Kurt Schaefer, and I have a feeling that's the side where we're talking about all the money, correct?
Right.
Correct.
Absolutely.
And why so much money on this particular race? Dave, you and I kind of talked about this the other day on Channel 5. What, my gosh, you're saying more in the Attorney General race than the governor's race. Why is this such an important race?
Attorney General is a critical position. Not only is it a launching pad for higher office, but attorneys general around the country have used that office to pursue an agenda that makes them often national characters. So that some of the Republican attorneys general, as in Oklahoma, now Texas, are using that office to make all kinds of filings against Obama administration regulations, against Obamacare, and they get a lot of positive publicity from that and campaign contributions. And some of that has happened on the Democratic side too.
Sticking with the Republicans for just a second, what have we learned about these two candidates? What do we know? How are they separating themselves?
Well, again, it's fairly similar. I mean, basically, this is a mano-a-mano thing with one billionaire backing one, David Humphreys. He's putting a lot of money in Hawley. And then you've got Rex Sinquefield who's putting a lot of money behind Schaefer. On many of the key issues, they're the same. I mean, Schaefer is emphasizing that he had practiced in courtrooms and that Hawley has been more of a constitutional lawyer where he writes briefs. Hawley emphasizes that he used to be a clerk for John Roberts on the U.S. Supreme Court. So there's all, again, it's all about the personal. It's not about the
I was going to say, it seems like they emphasized what they see as negatives for the other person. I feel like more negative ads than any self-describing ads.
Right, and I think especially in the last few days, you're going to see more of that because they've got this money. They feel like they need to spend it. And then in Schaefer's case, there's all this independent money. Again, we don't know who it's coming from. Hawley swears it's not him, that are running all these ads that are targeting a vote that Schaefer took several years ago in the state legislature, which allowed foreign companies to own some agricultural land in Missouri. Missouri used to have an outright ban, but after Smithfield Farms was purchased by the Chinese, they changed the laws so a certain percentage, small, can be purchased by foreign companies. A lot of the legislators, Republican and Democrat, voted for that. Jay Nixon, who's a Democrat, signed it. But Schaefer is taking the heat for it right now.
I think one of the reasons that there's so much money in this race has to do with Kurt Schaefer himself. Schaefer is from Columbia and used to be, as Hawley points out in one of the ads, a moderate. He used to brag about it. I knew Kurt when I was still covering the Capitol when I lived in Columbia as well. And he's a guy that in order to win his Senate seat had to be the moderate that he used to be and that a lot of people think that he is. And I'm not using that in a pejorative as his opponent is. But Senator Schaefer has spent much of his political career in the last few years inventing this right-wing, angry conservative who loves guns more than anybody else, and he did that in order to try to keep everybody out of his primary. And he was successful in getting Eric Schmidt to go into another race and Tim Jones not to run against him. But then this Josh Hawley guy comes out of nowhere and convinces a lot of people, maybe rightly, maybe wrongly, the Republicans will decide for themselves on Tuesday, that this guy isn't who he's pretending to be. And so you have all of this money going into this race trying to define a guy, Josh Hawley, who nobody knows, and redefine a guy who appears to be trying to be somebody that he wasn't historically. And so voters are getting all of this personal stuff when on the issues that they vote on, they're probably very similar.
Let's don't neglect the Democratic side. All of this money coming in, is it a Republican foregone conclusion that they'll continue on and win in November, or does Jake Zimmerman or Teresa Hensley, can they hold their own, whichever one comes out of there on Tuesday?
Well, you can guarantee that the National Association of Attorneys General, I probably mangled the name, but there is that, and that they will probably be pouring some money in to help the Democrat, just as the Republican counterpart will be putting some in to help the Republican. It's not a foregone conclusion. Hensley, who's the former Cass County prosecutor, she is Senator Claire McCaskill sort of denies it, but actually a lot of the Democratic establishment wanted Hensley. Zimmerman, who's the St. Louis County assessor and who's a lawyer, They wanted him to run for Secretary of State, but he didn't want to do that. He wanted to run for Attorney General. Well, he's raised a lot more money than Hensley, and it's going to be interesting if he wins on Tuesday, whether or not the Democratic Party in the state gets behind him then when they didn't before, because he is a strong money raiser. But I'm sure the Democrats are freaking out when they're seeing all this money pouring in on the Republican side. These giant donations that we're seeing so far are mainly going to Republicans. It doesn't mean the Democrats won't get them in the general, but right now most of it's pouring in to the GOP.
Okay, back.